Welcome back to Let's Play the Addams Family. Last time around, we returned Uncle Festus to his senses by bouncing on his head multiple times. And today we're going to rescue Morticia and complete the game. But before we can do that, we have to pay a final visit to our old friend Lurch. Hit it! And with that perfectly played piece of piano music, the wall over to our right here disappears, and we can finally access the final rooms of the game, beginning here with the chain room. Now this place is one big giant maze, and it might seem that there are actually two routes to get through this first room, but technically speaking, there's only one. Yes, this is one of the correct routes you can go down, but the only real reward for it is that heart refill. And you should have full hearts anyway, because any good Addams Family player worth their salt always stocks up on their hearts in Pugsley's den after defeating a dungeon. Now, in order to progress further into this maze, we have to find blocks and hit them to remove barriers that are blocking our path. This is not a new gameplay element by any means, we've seen it in quite a few of the dungeons we've encountered before, but there are two things that make this a lot harder in this final dungeon. The first thing are the spikes that are constantly surrounding us on the wall, on the ceilings, on the floor here. And the second one is a lot more evil. Also, the chains, as you may have already seen in the conservatory, are kind of finicky when it comes to grabbing them. Sometimes it looks like you're right on top of them and you'll press up and you'll miss them and fall on the spikes. Other times you'll appear to not be even touching them and you will actually grab them. Now here's the evil thing, that door we just passed, that's a trap. If you go in that door, you will be taken to a room either called Turn Back or Don't Go Down. If you end up in one of these rooms, my advice to you is to follow the advice given by the name of the room and get out of there as soon as possible. Because otherwise you'll go and end up in a room called the Piranha Tank. And the Piranha Tank is just a waste of your time. There is absolutely nothing other than a lot of fish in the Piranha Tank. I also quite like the chains in the foreground here, although they do kind of obscure your view of the action here. And this is kind of cool. It looks like you're going to be dropped in the Piranha Tank. Instead, you end up in this sort of chain of dollars. They call it the chain of coins. And look at that. Managed to grab every single dollar. Thank you very much. And the door on the left here will take you to the last refill, which is a fallacy because this is not the last refill in the game at all. I have no idea why Ocean decided to call this the last refill. Maybe because it is the last refill before the last part of the final dungeon, but as I said, it's misleading. It makes the player think, oh crap, I'm going to have to do the entire rest of the game with just whatever's in this room to fill up my life bar. And that is a fallacy. It's also kind of difficult, as I am demonstrating able to here, to get up to the top here. The platforms are kind of slippy and I keep giving poor old Gomez a concussion, but once you get up there, there's an invisible walkway and you can collect all the heart refills. And you are going to need them, because as soon as we go over to this door over to the right here, we end up in an entirely different area for whatever reason. This is the caves, and I guess we're supposed to be underneath the Addams Family mansion right now. But the problem with that is, we've already been underneath the mansion in this game. It was the underground and the big pit, respectively. So I have no idea where this caves fit in, geographically speaking. But you know what? This is a tie-in video game to a movie released in the 1990s, so let's just go with the flow, shall we? Now this place is kind of hard, and we actually have a couple of new enemies here. Our first one here is just a palette swap of the green bat enemy. It's a red bat, but it is kind of interesting because its attack pattern is completely different. Whereas the green bat will just fly in a line straight towards you, the red bats will fly in more of a sort of a zigzag pattern, and often in groups. You'll see that a little bit later on in the level. We also have these red skinless birds. They kind of look skinless, which is kind of disturbing. And they're just another palette swap, I believe, of the bird enemies in the kitchen. But I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me. And now we're going down, down, deeper and down. And this is where things start to get tricky. Whenever you start to go down in the caves, there are a lot of hazards, and you can easily lose a lot of health if you're not paying attention. There is a metric ton of bats to dispose of or just avoid. I recommend killing the ones that are directly in your path and then just avoiding the rest. And anytime you see water next to a door, go in it because there will always be money. Apart from one case a little bit later in the game, but that isn't till much later on. We had the return of the spiraling skull enemies from the furnace. Sorry, not the furnace, from the graveyard dungeon. What the hell was it called? The crypt, there we go. Can't even remember what I called my own dungeons. And also the return of the ball and chains. And over to the left here we have a secret room, the Rolling Stones, which were an awesome rock band, but their lead singer was a bit weird. It doesn't change the fact they made some awesome music though. But you know what, this is an LP, this is not Raining Out discussing his taste in music, so let's forget I ever said that. And that's what I mean, they sort of fly in a group. There are times when there will actually be 5, 6 or even 7 red bats in a group, and you'll see that a bit later on. More returning hazards and enemies, we have the bouncing balls and the cannons, and here an entire group of bats. And those platforms will fall as soon as you step on them. But not if they're moving like this. The return of the rotating axes. I kind of like this as a final dungeon. There's a nice mix of new enemies and hazards and old enemies and hazards. I'm not going to lie to you, it's kind of neat. So kudos to Ocean for that. But it is also very difficult, especially those flipping balls and chains. And this does not look at all difficult, but it is. Well, I'm saying it doesn't look difficult. Maybe it does. It's not like I can look inside your heads to see what you're thinking, which is probably a good thing, because that'd be kind of freaky. Fortunately, I have 89 lives to play with, so if I happen to lose a couple of them, it's no great shakes, really. Now, it might seem there's a big puzzle to this switch, there isn't. When it has 0 on it, that platform will appear blocking your way further down the mine shaft. When it has a 1 on it, you are clear to proceed. I thought there was some bigger mystery to it, but there isn't. And this heart refill you can get one of 2 ways. You can use the cannon, or you can make it a lot easier on yourself and just jump off the bat when it's flying high in the air. And this drop here down the spike pit is annoying. To my knowledge, there is no way of getting down there without taking damage at least once. If anyone wants to correct me on that, then please do, but I do believe you can't really get down there. I don't know why they put that in there, because having things where you have to take damage is kind of arbitrary and unfair. And once again, go underneath the water, underneath the door here, for a few extras, including that nicely concealed heart refill, and a fair amount of money. And also the piranhas, but if you remember from the conservatory, sorry not the conservatory, the underground, they're made of rubber. They're that weak, so there's really nothing to worry about. So now we're in the big cavern, and this is where things get even trickier. Now there are no new added enemies or hazards apart from one which comes up towards the end of this room, but the hazards that are here are in much trickier locations to avoid. For example, this rotating axe here, as far as I know, there is no way to get past it without taking a hit. There might be a way to get on top of the block it's spinning around, or maybe going underneath it if you're very, very quick on the trigger finger, but I'm not, so I just take a hit there and tank my way through it. It's not like I mind, I have 89 lives for crying out loud. It's possible you might have quite a few less at this stage, so you know, if you're down to 5 lives, maybe conserve them. But and over to the right here, we have a new obstacle, exploding volcanoes, which just killed me. Let that be a lesson to you kids. If you're planning on doing an LP, never say something along the lines of, this isn't as hard as it looks. Because if you say something like that, what's guaranteed to happen is that you will then die in a stupid way just before the room ends. Look at that, there's the door to the end of the room. Fuck my life. Right. Now these bats kind of remind me of boot chains in Super Mario World, except of course in this case you can jump on the individuals in the chain, which is a nice addition which wasn't present in Super Mario World. I wish it was, it would have made those damn ghost houses so much easier. And that was stupid. So let's talk a little bit about Morticia, shall we? She is the matriarch of the Addams family, and her name is derived from the French word mort, which means death. I suppose you could also argue that it comes from the Latin word mort, which also means death, but I believe that the French word is derived from the Latin word originally anyway, so it's kind of an irrelevant argument. But that's enough about languages. Morticia was portrayed in the 1960s TV series by Carolyn Jones. Now interestingly, she went on to portray a villainess called Marsha Queen of Diamonds in the 60s Batman TV series. And of course, as I've already said in this LP, John Astin, who played Gomez, went on to play the Riddler in an episode or 2 of the Batman TV series. And also, having done some research, it turns out that Ted Cassidy, who was the actor that played Lurch, was also in Batman, but he was not a villain. Oh no. He actually appeared in a cameo, in character, as Lurch, sticking his head out of a window and saying, "You rang." Because there was always, or there was nearly always, a celebrity cameo in Batman where a random celebrity would pop their head out of a window and have a conversation with Batman and Robin. Back to Morticia. She is very vampiric in appearance, I think, and she's also allegedly a witch. She can trace her lineage back to the Salem witch trials, although I still consider Grandma to be the true witch of the Addams Family. She wears a lot of makeup, although if you believe Wednesday, that's not actually makeup, that's baking powder. She has a pet African strangler plant called Cleopatra, whom she adores. And one final fact about Morticia, and this is hilarious, she likes to smoke. And I don't mean cigars, I mean she literally likes to smoke. She'll cross her arms, she'll say to her guests, "Do you mind if I smoke?" She'll cross her arms, and then literally emanate smoke from her armpits. At least, I think it's her armpits. That is just hilarious. Oh yes, and Morticia was also played by Daryl Hannah in the straight-to-video sequel to Addams Family Values, Addams Family Reunion. That film had Tim Curry and Daryl Hannah in it, and it still sucks! How the hell is that even possible? Impromptu movie review aside, however, we now arrive at the final challenge before our last boss, the Gondola. Now there was actually a Gondola stage just before the final boss in the NES version of the Addams Family as well, but that was a lot harder. You had to control the speed of the boat using the B button, and that game is a train wreck anyway. Here the boat maintains a nice constant speed, but this is still difficult. We have a lot of enemies milling around, particularly in the air, and these rotating axes are kind of hard to get past, and it is entirely possible to die at least once in this room. I also wouldn't recommend going in the water because although the piranhas are made of rubber, those red ones that you've just seen fly past there are a lot quicker. They're kind of like the bats, there's red and green alternatives. And here's a nice little glitch. If you go over to the left and scroll the boat off the screen, when you come back, the keel's entirely disappeared. And I don't mean the sprite's gone, you can't actually stand on it anymore. It's completely disappeared from the game. It's been deleted. So we've finally made it to the Addams Family vault, and inside the vault is just the Treasury, which is really just a refill room before you take on the final boss. We have a 1-up, a couple of heart refills, and some tennis shoes, and also enough money, as is befitting a Treasury, to get yourselves another 1-up and probably a heart refill as well, depending on how much money you've collected throughout the game. And I believe that the safe door to the Addams Family mentioned, the number on it, I believe that's a joke or a reference to something. But if anyone knows what that something is, then please let me know, because I haven't got the foggiest idea. Now those of you that were expecting a climactic battle against Tully for control of the Addams Family Mansion, prepare to be mortally disappointed. Because our final boss is actually the Nasty Judge. Well, that's what the game calls him, but he actually is a character in the first movie, albeit loosely based off one. This is actually supposed to be Judge Womack. Now, Judge Womack was a small yet fairly important character in the first movie. He was Gomez Addams' neighbour, who was frequently getting annoyed by all the antics of the Addams family. And later in the movie, Abigail Craven and her son Gordon, who's actually Fester, put a claim into the Addams family estate. And guess who the presiding judge is? And unsurprisingly, he rules in favour of Abigail and Gordon, and the Addams family are cast out onto the street. So I suppose fighting him at the end does make kind of sense, although I would have preferred Tully, who makes a lot more sense. Unfortunately, this boss fight is a huge disappointment. It's a massive anticlimax. It's so goddamn easy. All he'll do is jump around the room in his oversized clown shoes, making gevels drop from the ceiling, but the gevels can be jumped on, and as long as you're patient with this guy, you'll probably never even take a hit. I took one almost intentionally just to get rid of the tennis shoes earlier, because tennis shoes in a boss fight are not good. You might think added momentum in a boss fight is good, but no, it'll just take you straight into something that can damage you. I mean, Tully was the final boss in the Game Boy and NES versions. Why couldn't he have been in here? It would have made so much more sense. Instead of this disappointing judge. And this fight has gone on for nearly 2 minutes now. This is just boring. Really. And also, look at his sprite. I think someone's been rubbing walnut oil on his cheeks. God damn, that dude is ugly. Anyway, there really isn't much more to say about this fight. He's got one hit left. Get up here. And the disappointment goes down in flames. Enjoy the ending, and I'll be back during the credits. And so that brings Let's Play the Addams Family to a close. Well, almost. We still have the credits to enjoy/endure, and the credits this time is Gomer slowly walking through his portrait gallery, admiring various pictures of the people that have worked on this game. And wow, look at that guy's chin. That guy's chin has its own postcode, I'm pretty sure. And can I just say in advance that, although it's extremely unlikely, if anyone that's worked in this game happens to be watching this video, and you hear me directly insulting you, please don't take it personally, because it's just banter, okay? And oh my god, Jeremy Clarkson worked on this game apparently. Oh no, it's just a look-alike. But I have to give this guy credit, because the music and sound effects in this game are kind of underrated, so you did a good job, Jeremy Clarkson look-alike. That guy is in danger of developing a unibrow, and he looks kind of smug. But then again, he's the playtester, so I suppose he has every right to be kind of smug. Although, the playtester should really have picked out the poor collision detection, which is really the only thing... Oh my god, that guy looks like a complete dork. Yeah, the collision detection is really the only thing that prevents this game from being even greater. It's not a bad platformer, even though it's a movie tie-in, which is good. And this is one of the weirder credits I've ever seen. SCART connector and 5-amp fuse? It doesn't quite top my hamster, but this game had a 5-amp fuse? And a SCART connector? And photographs taken by the only girl on the development team, apparently? What is going on here? And we end this Rose Gallery of developers with the development manager himself, who looks a lot like Jeremy Beadle. And you can tell this guy's a manager because he's the only one wearing a suit in his portrait. Anyway, after all that slander, that brings to an end Let's Play the Addams Family. Thank you very much for watching this Let's Play. My next project should be uploaded within a week or two, but until then, bye for now.